New places, new perspectives, same questions, better answers. I'm Rowan Vale, and this is where learning becomes identity. Over the past 7 episodes, we've explored how students grow and change throughout college. We've talked about identity development, race and ethnicity, gender and sexuality, the ways our thinking becomes more complex, and how many students begin asking deeper questions about purpose, values, and meaning. Much of student development theory assumes that people are continually changing. But today's episode asks a different question. What if some aspects of ourselves don't change very much? What if two students approach the exact same classroom, the same study abroad experience, or the same language courses, but experience it completely differently because of enduring differences in personality, learning preferences, or interests? So today, we're exploring what student development scholars call typological theories. And unlike psychosocial or cognitive theories, typological theories focus less on stages of development and more on relatively stable patterns that shape how students learn, interact, and find environments where they can thrive. Let's explore. Let's begin by talking about what stable differences really are. Imagine walking into a Japanese classroom for the first time. One student immediately volunteers to read aloud. Another quietly observes before speaking. One wants clear grammar rules. Another prefers jumping into conversations and learning through mistakes. None of those approaches are wrong, they're just simply different. Typological theories begin with an important assumption. Instead of asking how students develop through predictable stages, they ask how relatively stable characteristics shape the ways people experience learning. We describe these theories as focusing on characteristics that tend to remain more stable over time than psychosocial or cognitive development. So rather than explaining growth through stages, these emphasize personality traits, learning styles, and vocational interests. But that doesn't mean students never change. Instead, these theories suggest that growth often happens through the interactions between relatively stable preferences and changing environments. As language learners, this makes intuitive sense because the classroom doesn't change and the textbooks don't change, but each student brings something unique into that room. This is where David Kolb's theories on learning through experiences become extremely relevant. David Kolb proposed that learning is fundamentally experiential. According to Kolb, effective learning moves through 4 stages. First comes a concrete experience, then reflective observation. Next comes abstract conceptualization, where we develop ideas and theories. And finally comes active experimentation, where we test those theories in practice. Different people naturally prefer different parts of that cycle. Some learners enjoy observing before acting, others prefer learning by doing. Some want theories first, and others need experiences before ideas can make sense. When I think about learning Japanese, I realize that I often cycle through all 4 stages. I'd learn a grammar concept, reflect on how native speakers actually used it, develop a clearer understanding, and then intentionally try it during conversations. Language learning isn't simply memorizing vocabulary, it's repeatedly moving through cycles of experience and reflection. And Cole reminds us that great educators don't only teach one way, they create opportunities for every learner to enter that cycle. Let's talk about Myers Briggs and personality. And this is kind of the assessment that I feel many people are familiar with. So, another well known typological model is the Myers Briggs type indicator. Built on Carl Jung's work, Myers Briggs describes preferences across 4 dimensions: introversion and extroversion, sensing or intuition, thinking or feeling, judging or perceiving. Notice the language here. These aren't labels that determine success, rather, they're preferences. An introvert can become an outstanding public speaker. An extrovert can learn to enjoy solitude. But understanding these preferences can help students better understand how they naturally recharge, gather information, make decisions, and organize their lives. Researchers have generally found that these kinds of personality preferences remain stable relatively over time, even as students grow and mature. So, for language learners, this can be especially meaningful. An extroverted student might eagerly seek conversation partners. An introverted student may initially prefer reading, writing, or one on one conversations before participating in larger groups. Both paths can lead to proficiency. The destination is ultimately the same. The route simply looks different. The last theorist that we'll look at today is Holland and his ideas on finding the right environment. So, John Holland shifted the conversation from learning styles to environments. His theory proposes six vocational personality types: realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional. Many people remember these with the acronym RAISEC, RIASEC. The central idea is person environment fit. People are often happiest and most successful when their personalities align with the environments that they choose. Research applying Holland's theory to higher education has shown support for this idea. Students tend to select majors compatible with their interests. Academic environments reinforce those interests, and stronger alignment between students and their discipline is associated with greater satisfaction, persistence, and achievement. Language learning is fascinating here because it rarely belongs to just one category. It can be artistic through literature, social through conversation, investigative through linguistics, even enterprising through international business. Perhaps that's one reason language learning attracts such a wonderfully diverse group of students, and why I love it so much. Let's wrap up today. So, what do I think this means for higher education? What should colleges actually do with typological theories? I don't think institutions should place students into boxes. That's one of the biggest criticisms of these models. Human beings are far too complex to be reduced to four letters or a single personality category. Instead, these theories offer something much more useful. I think they remind educators that there is no single normal way to learn. Some students process quietly, some process socially, some need reflections, others need experimentation. As persons invested in making learning accessible, that means designing environments with flexibility. Residence halls can offer both vibrant community spaces and quiet study rooms. Classrooms can balance discussion with reflection. Study abroad programs can include both structured cultural experiences and opportunities for independent exploration. Inclusive education doesn't mean treating every student exactly the same. It means recognizing that different students often need different pathways to reach the same learning outcomes. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson of typological theories. Student success isn't about changing who students are, it's about creating environments where different kinds of students can flourish. All right, next time we're going to get into social class. Today's episode reminds us that development isn't only about change. Sometimes it's also about understanding the characteristics that we carry with us throughout our lives and learning how those characteristics interact with the environments that we choose. Whether through Kolb's learning styles, Myers-Briggs personality preferences, or Holland's theories of vocational choice, typological theories encourage educators to recognize the remarkable diversity students bring into every classroom. So next time, we'll shift our attention from personality to one of the most influential and often invisible forces shaping college experiences. We're going to explore social class. How does socioeconomic background influence belonging, opportunity, language learning, and access to higher education? And what responsibilities do colleges have in helping students navigate those differences? I'm Rowan Vale. Until next time, stay curious about who you're becoming.